Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Metaphysical Life podcast, where we talk about all things relating to body, mind, and spirit. I am your host, Nicole Kahale. This episode is sponsored by Harrister. They are a storefront company on Amazon, and they are offering 10% off to all of the Metaphysical Life listeners. They have 3 products available: an oil box and an oil shelf to store your essential oils, as well as a scratch map for you travelers out there. If you're interested in any of these products, please visit nicolekaye.com/Harrister for the link and the coupon code. If you'd like to support the show, there are a few ways you can do that. You can subscribe and give it a positive review. You can follow us on social media at the Metaphysical Life Podcast. You can also share an episode on social media and tag us. That would be very helpful. One more thing before I introduce today's guest. We talk about a lot of books on this podcast. So in January, I will be launching a virtual book club focused on metaphysical topics. So if you're interested, head on over to Instagram and follow Metaphysical_Bookclub and stay tuned for the information. If you don't have Instagram and still want to be a part of the book club, just send me an email at NicoleKayer, NicoleKayer @outlook.com, and I'll be happy to send you the information. So this episode is going to be a little different in that it won't be an interview style episode. What I'm going to do is season 1 is coming to an end soon, and I wanted to do a recap of, a few takeaways that I learned while doing these interviews. So today I'm going to go over 5 key takeaways that I learned from the first 5 episodes of season 1. And then next week I will share 6 takeaways that I learned from the remaining 6 episodes of this season. And then that will complete season 1, and we will resume season 2 at the beginning of January. So before I start, I just wanted to quickly share or reiterate my vision for this podcast. My vision was to provide a platform for people to share their spiritual journey so that we can all learn that A, we are not alone in what we are going through, and B, that we're able to learn from other people so willing to share their story with us. And I just want to take a few moments to thank every person that said yes to this interview, to sharing their life, sharing their story, and helping others in doing that. And I want to quickly share a review that I think sums up season 1 quite nicely. It's a review by somebody with the name Lightworking, and here's what it reads. Great examples of different perceptions of life. Love listening. Nice to reflect on myself a bit after hearing details of another's journey. So thank you, Lightworking, for your review. I am so grateful that these episodes have helped you reflect, and I hope that it also helps others do the same. So let me begin with what I've learned. So I'm going to share 5 takeaways in this episode. And then next week, I will share the remaining 6 takeaways. So takeaway number 1, get clear on what you want. This was from episode 2, where I interviewed Natalie Kahale, who shares about the loss of her first husband. And she wasn't going to be labeled a widow and give up on her dream of having children. She got super clear on what she wanted and went after it with full faith that it was going to happen. And it did happen. So if you don't know what you want, then I challenge you to figure that out. If you haven't done it already, make a list of the top 3 things you want to achieve in life. And look at it daily. Take small steps each day toward these objectives, toward this goal. And I will tell you, even the small daily things you do that you don't think are a big deal, these small things do move you closer to where you want to be, where that ideal is that you have in your mind. So a real example that I can share is this podcast. So I really had a desire to talk about metaphysical, spiritual topics with other people. And I'm more of a behind the scenes type of person. So a podcast is something that I was really interested in. And I knew that this was something I wanted to do in June. And so I took small steps each day toward launching a podcast. I listened to other podcasts. I enrolled in courses that costed money, but I wanted to learn about podcasts. I researched many platforms. I reached out to people that I knew to see if they would be open to sharing their journey with me and of course with you. And all of these things, these actionable steps, moved me closer to my objective of launching and hosting a podcast where I can talk about spiritual topics with other people. So if you haven't gotten clear on what you want, then I suggest that you take on that challenge by the end of the year, going into 2020, figure out what you want and get clear on that and take those small steps daily. Takeaway number 2, protect yourself as an empath. So this was something that Huguette Belanger talked about on episode, I believe it was episode 3. And she talked about being an empath and how she protects herself before and after gatherings, whether it's a work gathering or a family gathering. And, I am definitely an empath. I am more of an empath now since my spiritual awakening. So this was a good reminder for me because I will often forget to ground myself, protect myself before I go to a gathering, whether it's a work gathering or even going into the mall. I sometimes forget. And, a real example is something that just happened a couple weeks ago. I just came back from a 3-day spiritual retreat, and it was a live-in spiritual retreat. It was about an hour away from home, and I forgot to ground and protect myself before going in. And it was a wonderful, a beautiful retreat full of divine healing. But I did notice after the first day that it felt like I was hit by a ton of bricks because everybody was opening up, everybody was sharing. And so I didn't ground myself, and I really had a hard time keeping up. I found that I was super tired the second and third day. Now, the limited sleep didn't help either, but still, I definitely felt my energy was drained. And it took me a good 2 days after returning home for my energy to get back to normal. So think about this as the holidays and gatherings start for Christmas time or whatever you happen to celebrate, and ground yourself. Plant your feet outside and imagine roots growing from the bottom of your feet into the earth, and then imagine a bubble forming around you for protection. It's winter here, so I don't do it outdoors as much. I tend to do it indoors. I've done it in my basement. I've even done it on my main level, and I imagine the roots going through the floors into the ground, and then that bubble coming up to protect me. You can use a bubble, you can use a glass, you can use a brick. Try different things and see what works for you. After the fact, I tend to burn sage, and I scrub myself with some Epsom salts. Especially if I'm around people who are a little bit more negative than I'm used to, then I'll do that as well. But regardless, a quick Google online, if you search, protecting yourself as an empath, you'll see a lot more examples. These are the things that work for me. So try different things and see what works. Takeaway number 3. Honor the dark night of the soul. So this was in episode 4, and it was from Ronnie Barton, who talks intimately and authentically about his own experience during the dark night of the soul phase of his spiritual awakening. And he talks about eventually seeing the light and realizing what he went through was essential to his spiritual transformation. And I could really relate to Ronnie during this time because I started to experience the dark night of the soul around the end of 2015. Shortly after I experienced a mystical experience where one would say that I met God for the first time. And it lasted roughly 3 years, this dark night of the soul phase. I didn't really know it was happening until it ended around, I would say, the end of 2018. And I didn't share it with people until 6 months after that, mainly because I didn't really have words to explain it. How do you explain to somebody that you had a mystical experience where you met God for the first time? I mean, you can't really explain that to people unless people have experienced it or if people are open to it. And so I sort of kept that inside, but I do know that that dark night of the soul, that phase, it was a very special part of my awakening that I do cherish. And it's something that I needed to go through to get to where I am today. And today I'd say that I am super steadfast in my faith. And like Ron, I agree that it probably never really stops. We are always learning and growing, and we may experience these dark dips every now and then. And to remember to honor this and that there is light coming, but that it's important for you to work through this dark night of the soul and learn from it. And I'd like to read you a small paragraph from one of the meditations that I received this week. I get a meditation daily from Richard Rohr. He is I think one of the most popular spirituality authors and speakers in the world. So if you haven't heard of him, I'll link Richard below. I'll link the link below, and you can also Google. But he talks about, in the meditation that I received this week, he talks about 2 different types of darknesses. The first darkness we know, that's, when we look at our own faults, our own selfishness and stupidity and things that we do in daily life where we have to, ask for forgiveness and apologize because we haven't been the best person. But then he talks about another darkness, and that's the darkness that Ronnie refers to in the episode, and that's the darkness that I talk about. And I just want to read you what it says because I think it's really beautiful. So here's what it reads. There's another darkness that we're led into by God, grace, and the nature of life itself. In many ways, the loss of meaning, motivation, purpose, and direction might feel even greater here. Some call it the dark night of the soul. Yet, even while we feel alone and that God has abandoned us, we can also sense that we have been led here intentionally. We know we are in liminal space, betwixt and between, on the threshold, and we have to stay here until we have learned something essential. It is still no fun and filled with doubt and demons of every sort, but it is the darkness of being held closely by God without our awareness. This is where transformation happens. And so, whatever you use as the word God, whether you use the word creator or divine, replace that word, but you get the point that it's here where transformation happens. Yes, it's dark. It's something that you need to go through and honor that darkness and wait, because the white light will come. And I just really thought that that's something that we should all remember. So I thought it was worth sharing with you. Takeaway number 4. Doing what you love will heal you and heal the world. This was from Will Caminada, and I could not agree with Will more. We were all born with gifts, strengths, and interests, and our purpose on this earth is to use our gifts and do those things that we love. And when we do these things that we love, we become the best version of ourselves. And if you don't know what you're passionate about, and I've asked some people about this, and a lot of people don't know what they're passionate about, and that's okay. But I encourage you to spend time and figure out what you're passionate about. Make a list of things that you do that make you happy. Pay attention to the things that you do where you lose time, where time stops, because while you're doing it, you're enjoying it and loving it so much. You become more in flow with who you're meant to be. You can also ask friends and family what they think your strengths are or what they think you're passionate about, because they will see how happy you are. They will see the smile on your face. They will feel your excitement when you're doing something passionate. So ask them. And it very well could simply be something that you love to do. For example, I love playing guitar. I don't think that I am a strong guitar player. I'm sure if I practiced more, I could be, but I'm not interested in becoming a really good guitar player. I just enjoy strumming the guitar when I feel in the mood to learn or play a song. So do what you love, find something that you love, and do the things you love to heal yourself and heal the world. Takeaway number 5, let go of judgment. This was something that I took away from my conversation with Mishelle B. And we talked about a lot of things, but definitely the number one thing was stop judging and stop judging ourselves. Stop limiting our beliefs. Stop worrying about fear. Stop worrying about calories. Just stop. We are so hard on ourselves. And, maybe you're past this, but I still catch myself when I judge myself. I do it sometimes with what I wear. I do it with what I eat, how I look, if I'm not as productive as I should be. And that's when I catch myself. Imagine the self-talk that I don't catch. It takes proactive work to remove the judgment and remove the negative self-talk and reprogram our minds with positive self-talk. And it doesn't happen overnight. But if we become aware and remember, become aware of the language that we use, listen to the words that we're telling ourselves, listen to the words that we're telling our loved ones, and remember to be kinder to ourselves, and that it's okay to go with the flow, and it's okay to make mistakes. Forgive yourself and move on to loving yourself and being who you were meant to be. So those were my 5 takeaways from the first 5 episodes. I would love to hear what you thought of the 5 episodes and what you took away from them. Next week, I will share my 6 takeaways for the last 6 episodes of the season, and then we will take a little break for the holiday and return at the beginning of January. Have a wonderful day or evening, depending on when you're listening to this, and I appreciate every one of you.